The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep sound that echoed through the huge room. Ambassador Kang Wu walked slowly inside, his black shoes clicking on the polished floor. Behind him came Captain Lee Sora, her military, uniform neat and clean, and Dr. Park Dae-ho carrying his data tablet and looking tired. The chamber was already full of noise. 47 different alien species filled the curved seats that went up to the high ceiling. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths. Others released sweet or bitter smells into the air. A few moved their tentacles or wings as they talked to each other. Kang Wu had been coming to these meetings for 12 years. He knew the sounds and smells. He knew which aliens would speak today and what they would say. It was always the same. Ew. Human seats were in the middle section, not too high, not too low. This was supposed to show that humans were equal to everyone else, but Kang Wu had learned that equal did not mean respected. Chancellor Vrex stood up at the main podium. He was tall and thin, with green skin that looked wet under the bright lights. His species, the Vraxians, had been in space for over 2,000 years. They never let anyone forget this fact. Today we discuss the recent conflict in the Outer Rim territories, Chancellor Vrex said. His voice came through the translation, devices as cold and sharp. Once again the humans chose violence over peaceful solutions. Kang Wu did not move. Lee Sora sat straight in her chair, her hands flat on the table. Park Dae-ho opened his tablet and started typing notes. The Corvin pirates attacked 3 civilian ships, Chancellor Vrex continued. They killed innocent people and stole medical supplies meant for sick children. The proper response was to open diplomatic talks with the Corvin leadership. Several aliens made sounds of agreement. The Aquilians fluttered their crystal wings. The Zenthari clicked their claws on their desks. Instead, Chancellor Vrex said, his voice getting louder, the humans sent warships. They destroyed the pirate base without trying to understand why the Corvins turned to crime. Violence is always the human answer. Lady Quill rose from her seat in the high section. She was beautiful in the way that sharp glass is beautiful. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. The human military acts like wild animals, she said. They shoot first and ask questions later. This is not how civilized beings solve problems. More sounds of agreement filled the chamber. Kang Wu wrote something on a piece of paper and showed it to Lee Sora. She read it and nodded once. Admiral Thex from the Vraxian Navy stood up. His green skin was darker than the Chancellor's, marked with scars from old battles. Human fighting. Methods are crude and simple. They use too much force. They do not think before they act. Dr. Zenth, a small gray alien with 4 arms, added his voice to the criticism. Human medicine is the same way. They cut into bodies instead of using our advanced healing methods. They think pain and blood are necessary parts of healing. Park Dae-ho stopped typing and looked up. His face showed no emotion, but Kang Wu knew him well enough to see the anger in his eyes. The attacks continued for 2 hours. Species after species stood up to criticize human methods. They said humans were too emotional. They said humans made decisions based on feelings instead of logic. They said human technology was rough and ugly compared to their advanced designs. Commander, Quex from the Gorvak Imperium spoke in a voice like grinding metal. Humans build machines that break down. They make ships that are loud and ugly. They have no sense of beauty or elegance in their work. Counselor Thief, whose species looked like walking flowers, added her voice. Human farming methods damage the soil. They grow food that tastes plain. They do not understand the art of living in harmony with nature. Through all of this, the 3 humans sat quietly. Kang Wu had trained himself not to react to insults. Lee Sora had learned the same skill in the military. Park Dae-ho just kept taking notes, recording every word. But today felt different. Today the attack seemed more personal, more cruel. Today the aliens seemed to take special pleasure in hurting human pride. Chancellor Vrex returned to the podium for his final speech. For too long, we have allowed the humans to contaminate our discussions with their primitive thinking. They bring their emotional reactions to problems that require calm, logical solutions. He paused and looked directly at the human section. Perhaps it is time to consider whether humans are truly ready to participate in civilized galactic society. The chamber fell silent. This was the first time anyone had openly suggested removing humans from the council. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Lady Quill spoke into the silence. I agree with Chancellor Vrex. The humans have proven again and again that they cannot rise above their animal nature. Every solution they offer involves fighting or destroying something. They are useful for simple tasks, admitted Admiral Thex. Building basic structures, moving heavy objects, fighting. In wars we would rather avoid. But they should not have a voice in important decisions. Dr. Zenth nodded his small head. They are like children who have learned to use tools. Dangerous children. Kang Wu felt something change inside his chest. Not anger exactly. Something colder and more final. He looked at his two companions. Lee Sora's jaw was tight. Park Dae-ho had stopped taking notes. Chancellor Vrex continued his speech. We are the educated species of this galaxy. We have evolved beyond the need for violence and crude solutions. We should not let primitive thinking drag us backward. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement once again. Kang Wu counted the voices. 31 of the 47 species openly supported the Chancellor's words. The others stayed silent, which was the same as agreement. For 12 years, Kang Wu had defended humanity in this chamber. He had explained human actions and tried to build bridges between species. He had listened to insults and responded with patience. He had hoped that respect would come with time. But today he understood that respect would never come. These aliens did not see humans as equals who thought differently. They saw humans as dangerous animals who needed to be controlled. The session was ending. Chancellor Vrex called for the usual closing ceremonies. But Kang Wu stood up before the Chancellor could finish speaking. The chamber grew quiet, as all eyes turned to the human ambassador. Many aliens probably expected another long speech defending human actions. They expected Kang Wu to argue and plead for understanding. Instead, Kang Wu walked slowly to the main podium. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. He looked out at the 46 alien species watching him. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. The Terran Federation formally withdraws from this council. The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Several aliens made sounds of shock. Others sat frozen in surprise. Kang Wu did not say anything else. He walked back to his seat and picked up his papers. Lee Sora and Park Dae-ho stood up and gathered their things. The three humans moved toward the exit doors. Ambassador Kang, Chancellor Vrex called out. Surely you do not mean this. We can discuss your concerns. Kang Wu did not turn around. He did not slow down. The three humans reached the doors and walked through them. The doors closed behind them with a final sound. In the chamber, 46 species sat in confused silence. Then the talking started. Some aliens celebrated. They said this was good news, that the humans were finally gone. Others looked worried, though they did not say why. None of them noticed the small recording device that Kang Wu had left on the human table. The device that was still listening to every word they said. Outside in the corridor, Lee Sora spoke for the first time all day. Sir, what happens now? Kang Wu straightened his jacket and looked toward the exit. Now we go home, Captain, and we let them discover what the galaxy looks like without dangerous animals to help them. The three humans walked away in silence, leaving behind 40 years of partnership and 12 years of patient diplomacy. Behind them, the council continued to debate, not knowing that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Captain Han Soo-jin stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at Kepler Station through the large window. The station was huge, bigger than most cities. Its metal arms stretched out into space like the branches of a tree. For 32 years, humans had built and maintained this place. Now they were leaving. Captain, said Lieutenant Choi Min-woo, walking up with a data pad in his hands. The engineering teams have finished removing the fusion reactors from sections 12 through 18. The Zenthari workers are asking questions. Han Soo-jin did not turn around. She kept watching the station as human ships moved around it, like busy insects. Each ship was carrying away pieces of technology that the aliens had never bothered to understand. "What kind of questions?" she asked. "They want to know how to maintain the power systems after we leave. They also want copies of the technical manuals." Now Han Soo-jin turned around. Her face was hard. "Protocol 7 is in effect, Lieutenant. No technology transfers. No consultation. No assistance." "But Captain, without the fusion reactors, the station will lose power in 3 days. 50,000 aliens live here." Then they should have thought about that before they decided we were too primitive to help them. Lieutenant Choi Min-woo looked uncomfortable, but he nodded. "Yes, Captain. What should I tell the Zenthari administrator?" "Tell him exactly what Chancellor Vrex told us last week. Tell him that they are advanced beings who have evolved beyond primitive solutions. Tell him they will figure it out." The same conversation was happening all across human space. On every station, every colony, every shared facility, humans were packing up and leaving. They took everything they had built. They destroyed everything they could not carry. Dr. Yang Eun-ji walked through the medical station on Proxima 7 for the last time. The hallways were full of boxes and equipment cases. Her research team was loading 40 years of medical knowledge into transport ships. "Dr. Yang," called out Dr. Zeph, one of the alien doctors who worked at the station. His blue skin looked pale with worry. "Please, you must leave the cancer treatment protocols. We have patients who will die without them." Yang Eun-ji stopped walking. She looked at the alien doctor with tired eyes. "Dr. Zeph, you have been working here for 8 years. In all that time, did you ever ask to learn how the treatments actually work?" Dr. Zeph moved his tentacles in a nervous pattern. "Well, no. You humans were always available to handle the complex procedures. We focused on patient care." "Patient care," Yang Eun-ji repeated slowly. "You mean you focused on the easy parts? The parts that made you look good to the patients? You left the hard work to us primitive humans. Doctor, please. I did not mean to insult your species. The treatments you developed have saved millions of lives." Yang Eun-ji picked up another box of research data. "Yes, they have. And for 8 years, you watched us save those lives without caring how we did it. You were happy to take credit for our work as long as you did not have to understand it." She walked toward the transport ship. Dr. Zeph followed her. "What am I supposed to tell the patients?" he asked. "Tell them that their treatment was developed by primitive, emotional humans. Tell them that your advanced medical knowledge could not cure what our crude methods could fix. Then figure out how to help them with your own skills." On Titan Base, Commander Song Hyun-woo stood in the control room of the early warning system. The walls were covered with screens showing the positions of every ship within 50 light years. Red dots marked dangerous objects like asteroids and comets. Green dots showed friendly vessels. This system had protected the inner worlds for 5 decades. "Commander," said his aide, "the Gorvak administrator wants to speak with you." "Put him through." A large alien face appeared on the main screen. Administrator Korv had gray skin and yellow eyes. He looked worried. "Commander Song, we need to discuss the defense grid. Our technicians do not understand how to operate the warning systems." Song Hyun-woo began entering commands into his control panel. One by one, the screens went dark. The red and green dots disappeared. The hum of the detection equipment grew. "Quiet." "There," Song Hyun-woo said. "Problem solved. No more system to operate." "You cannot shut down the defense grid," Administrator Korv shouted. "Without early warning, we will be blind to threats. Hostile ships could attack without us knowing." "Administrator, your people have been telling us for decades that human technology is crude and unreliable. Surely your advanced sensors are better than our primitive equipment." "But Commander, we do not have sensors that can detect ships at long range. We have always depended on your systems." Song Hyun-woo smiled without warmth. "Then I suggest you start building some. You have plenty of time to work on it." The screen went black. Song Hyun-woo finished shutting down the last of the equipment, then walked out of the control room. His team was already loading their personal belongings onto transport ships. Back on Earth, President Kim Ji-woo sat in her office reading reports from across human space. Every human facility was being evacuated. Every piece of human technology was being removed or destroyed. The withdrawal was going exactly as planned. Her aide, Colonel Bayek Ji-hyun, knocked on the door and came in. "Madam President, we are receiving thousands of messages from alien governments. They want to negotiate. They are offering trade deals, defense agreements, even representation on their local councils." "Too late for that," President Kim Ji-woo said. She signed her name on a document and handed it to the colonel. "Execute Order 2387. Colonel Bayek Ji-hyun read the document. "Complete non-interference protocol. Are you sure about this, Madam President?" "Colonel, for 40 years we have been partners with species who treated us like useful animals. We built their stations, defended their worlds, cured their diseases, and solved their problems. In return, they insulted us, dismissed our methods, and questioned whether we deserved to participate in galactic society." President Kim Ji-woo stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Seoul spreading across the landscape. "They wanted us gone," she continued. "Now they have their wish. Let them handle galactic affairs with their advanced diplomatic methods. Let them defend themselves with their elegant non-violent solutions. Let them cure their diseases with their sophisticated medical techniques. And if they cannot, then they will learn what those primitive human methods were actually worth." The evacuation continued for 6 more weeks. Human ships moved through space like a great migration, carrying people and equipment back to human-controlled systems. They left behind empty stations, dark defense grids, and confused alien populations. On Kepler Station, the power failed exactly 3 days after the humans left. Emergency lighting came on, but it would only last for a week. The Zenthari administrator sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for technical assistance. The messages were received and deleted without being read. The Proxima Medical Station closed 2 weeks later. Without human-maintained equipment, the alien doctors could not treat serious diseases. Patients were transferred to other facilities, but those facilities did not have the advanced treatments that humans had developed. The early warning systems throughout the inner worlds went silent. For the first time in 50 years, the civilized species of the galaxy were flying blind through space. In the council chamber on Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vrex called an emergency meeting. Only 39 species attended. The others were too busy dealing with crises in their home systems. "The human withdrawal is causing some minor difficulties," Chancellor Vrex admitted, "but this gives us an opportunity to develop our own solutions without relying on primitive methods." Several council members did not look convinced, but no one spoke up. They had spent too many years criticizing human methods to admit they might actually need them. Light years away, the human fleet settled into orbit around Earth and her colonies. For the first time in decades, humanity was alone in space. Some people worried about isolation. Others were relieved to be free from constant criticism. President Kim Ji-woo made one final announcement to the human population. "We are turning inward. We will focus on our own development and let the galaxy manage itself. We will not interfere in alien affairs, and we will not respond to requests for assistance." "What if they are in real danger?" asked a reporter. "Then they will handle it the same way they handled everything else for thousands of years before humans came along. They will use their superior intelligence and advanced methods." The galaxy had gotten what it wanted. The primitive, emotional, violent humans were gone. Now the enlightened species could build their perfect civilization without crude human interference. They would soon learn the true cost of that perfection. Admiral Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vraxian Glory, and stared at the tactical display. Red enemy symbols filled the screen like angry stars. The hegemony fleet had appeared without warning, striking 12 systems at once. 6 months ago, human early warning systems would have detected this attack weeks before it happened. "Admiral," said his communications officer, "we are receiving distress calls from all the attacked systems. The enemy fleet is larger than our intelligence estimated." Admiral Thex felt his throat go dry. His species were natural hunters, good at stalking individual prey. But commanding a fleet of 300 ships was different from hunting alone. He wished Admiral Park Sun-ho was here. The human had taught him everything about large-scale tactics, but Admiral Park Sun-ho was gone. All the humans were gone. "Send the 2nd and 3rd fleets to defend the outer colonies," Admiral Thex ordered. "We will take the 1st fleet and strike at their main force." His aide looked worried. "Admiral, should we not coordinate with the other species? The Aquilians have ships in the area, and the Zenthari trade fleet could provide support." Admiral Thex made a hissing sound of frustration. In the past, human tactical advisors would have coordinated everything. They would have created detailed battle plans and made sure all the Allied fleets worked together. Vraxians were not good at that kind of cooperation. "Send messages to the other fleets," he said finally. "Tell them to follow our lead." The battle began badly and got worse quickly. The hegemony ships moved in perfect formation, like they had been training together for years. The Allied defense fleet moved like a group of strangers trying to dance together. Admiral Thex watched in horror as the 2nd Fleet broke apart under enemy fire. Captain Zek had been commanding those ships for 10 years, but he had always depended on human strategic planning. Without human advisors, he could not adapt when the enemy changed tactics. "Admiral," his weapons officer shouted, "the Aquilian ships are retreating. They say their formations are too elegant to waste in crude fighting." "And the Zenthari? Their trade ships were not designed for combat. They are requesting permission to withdraw." Admiral Thex looked at the tactical display again. His fleet was alone against an enemy force twice their size. The hegemony commander was using tactics that looked familiar. These were human tactics modified and improved. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The hegemony had been studying human military methods, while the council had been dismissing them as primitive. Now the enemy knew how humans fought, but the council had never bothered to learn. "All ships retreat to the inner system," Admiral Thex ordered. It was the only choice left. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, 2/3 of the Vraxian fleet was destroyed or disabled. Admiral Thex survived only because his flagship's engines were faster than the enemy ships. On Aquila Prime, Lady Quill stood in her crystal palace watching the sky burn. Hegemony bombers flew overhead in neat formations, dropping explosives on the beautiful structures below. The crystal gardens built over 3 centuries collapsed into glittering dust. "My lady," said her military advisor, "our defense forces are requesting instructions." Lady Quill made a sound like breaking glass. The Aquilian Defense Force was designed for ceremony and display, not actual combat. Their ships looked like works of art, with flowing lines and bright colors. But they were as fragile as they were beautiful. "Tell them to engage the enemy," she said. "Show them the power of Aquilian military art." The engagement lasted less than an hour. Aquilian ships were built for grace and elegance, not survival. Their weapons were designed to create beautiful light displays during parades. Against hegemony warships built for killing, they had no chance. Lady Quill watched from her palace as the last Aquilian ship exploded in a shower of silver sparks. It was beautiful, in its way. It was also the end of Aquilian military power. "My lady," her advisor said quietly, "perhaps we should contact the humans. Ask them to return and help us." Lady Quill's crystal wings trembled with anger. "Never. We are a civilized species. We do not need primitive human violence to solve our problems." But as more hegemony ships filled the sky, she began to wonder if civilized methods would be enough. Meanwhile, the distress calls poured into human space. Former council members sent thousands of messages begging for help. They offered money, trade deals, territorial concessions, anything to bring the humans back. On Earth, Admiral Park Sun-ho sat in his garden tending to his roses. The flowers were blooming beautifully in the morning sun. He found gardening much more peaceful than commanding fleets. Colonel Baek Ji-hyun approached with a tablet full of urgent messages. Her face was serious. "Admiral, the situation is getting worse. 17 systems have fallen to the hegemony. The death toll is approaching 2 billion civilians." Admiral Park Sun-ho did not look up from his roses. He was trimming dead leaves with small scissors. "That is unfortunate," he said calmly. "Sir, they are specifically requesting your return. Admiral Thex sent a personal message saying he needs your tactical expertise." Admiral Thex, Park Sun-ho said, cutting another dead leaf. The same Admiral Thex who told the council that human fighting methods were crude and simple. The same one who said we use too much force and do not think before we act. Yes, sir. But people are dying. Admiral Park Sun-ho finally looked up. His eyes were cold. Colonel, people were dying 6 months ago when the Corvan pirates attacked those civilian ships. The council said the proper response was diplomatic talks with the pirates. They said our violent methods were inappropriate. He went back to his roses. I assume Admiral Thex has opened diplomatic discussions with the hegemony. Surely his advanced tactical thinking will resolve this peacefully. Colonel Baek Ji-hyun shifted uncomfortably. Sir, the hegemony is not interested in negotiations. They are conquering territory and enslaving populations. How terrible. If only there were some crude, simple humans around to stop them with inappropriate violence. The attacks continued across the galaxy. The Zenthari Trade Federation lost 3 major colonies in 1 week. The Gorvak Imperium watched their border worlds fall one by one. The Delphan Republic evacuated 4 entire star systems. Dr. Seo Young-hee received urgent messages every day from former colleagues. They begged her to return and help develop defenses against hegemony bioweapons. They offered her any position. She wanted unlimited research funding, anything she asked for. Dr. Seo Young-hee was teaching 8-year-old children how to grow vegetables in the underground farms of Mars Colony. She found their questions much more interesting than desperate pleas from people who had spent years insulting her work. Teacher Seo asked little Minna, why do the tomatoes grow better in the blue light? Because plants need different colors of light for different things, Dr. Seo Young-hee explained. Blue light helps them grow strong stems and leaves. Her tablet buzzed with another urgent message from the Delphin Health Ministry. She turned it off without reading it. Teacher, what? About red light? Red light helps them make flowers and fruit. It was a much more pleasant conversation than listening to aliens beg for help with diseases they could have prevented if they had learned basic human medical techniques. On Nexus Prime, Emergency Chancellor Vorth called a crisis meeting. Only 28 species attended. The others were either under enemy occupation or too busy with their own disasters to participate. The situation is serious, Chancellor Vorth admitted. His usually confident voice sounded shaky. The hegemony advance continues on all fronts. Our combined fleets have won no major victories. Councillor Thef, whose flower-like face was wilted with stress, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider asking the humans to return. The chamber fell silent. For 6 months, no one had been willing to say those words out loud. The humans abandoned us, said Commander Quex of the Gorvak Imperium. They left when we needed them most. Why would they help us now? Because they are humans, Chancellor Vorth said quietly. They always helped us before, even when we did not appreciate it. Dr. Zenth, the small gray alien with 4 arms, looked uncomfortable. What would we have to offer them? What price would they demand for their return? No one had an answer to that question. For 40 years, the humans had contributed to galactic civilization while asking for nothing but basic respect. Now that respect would have to be earned, and the price might be very high. Send a message to Earth, Chancellor Vorth said finally. Tell them we need to talk. Light years away, President Kim Ji-woo read the message from the council. She showed it to her cabinet members and waited for their reactions. They want to negotiate, said Defense Minister Cho Min-seo. They are offering to discuss terms for our return to galactic affairs. What kind of terms? Asked Admiral Sun Yu-jin. President Kim Ji-woo smiled coldly. That depends on how desperate they are. And judging by these casualty reports, they are very desperate indeed. She looked out the window at Earth's blue sky. Somewhere up there, 10 billion people were dying because advanced alien civilizations could not defend themselves without primitive human help. Set up a meeting, she said. But make it clear that we will be discussing their surrender, not our return. They wanted to see what the galaxy looked like without humans. Now they know. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the difference between advanced. The Zenthari Trade Federation had been the backbone of galactic economics for over a century. Their currency, the credit standard, was used in 47 star systems. Banks across the galaxy held trillions of credits in their vaults. Everyone trusted the system because it was backed by guaranteed trade routes that humans had established and protected. Director Vash stood in the central banking tower on Zenthari Prime, watching numbers fall on the massive display screens. The Bayou credit standard had lost 60% of its value in 3 weeks. Banks were failing across the galaxy. "Director," said his assistant, "we are receiving bankruptcy notices from 18 major financial institutions. The Gorvak Imperial Bank has stopped all lending operations." Director Vash's tentacles curled with stress. "What about the emergency currency reserves?" "They were invested in human-protected trade route securities. Without the trade routes, the securities are worthless." 3 years ago, Dr. Lim Jae-min had warned them about this exact problem. The Human Economic Advisor had created detailed reports showing how the entire financial system depended on human protection. The Zenthari had dismissed his concerns as unnecessarily negative thinking. "Can we contact Dr. Lim?" Director Vash asked. "Desperately. We tried. He is working as a farming consultant on Mars Colony. He refused to take our calls." Director Vash looked at the screens again. The numbers kept falling. Without human trade protection, merchant ships were being attacked by pirates every day. Without human guaranteed shipping lanes, insurance companies refused to cover cargo vessels. The entire foundation of galactic trade was crumbling. "Send another message to Dr. Lim," he said. "Offer him anything he wants. Make him the head of the entire economics division." "Sir, we already tried that." His reply was very short. "What did he say?" The assistant read from his tablet. He said, "You told me human economic theories were too simple for your advanced financial system. Use your advanced theories to fix your advanced problems." On the other side of the galaxy, the medical crisis was getting worse. A mutated plague had started on Delphin Colony 7 and was spreading to other worlds. The disease attacked the nervous system, causing paralysis and death within days. Dr. Keth, the chief medical officer of the Delphin Republic, stood in his laboratory, staring at tissue samples under a microscope. He had been working for 72 hours straight, but he was no closer to finding a cure. "Doctor," said his research assistant, "the infection rate has increased by 30%. We now have over 2 million confirmed cases across 8 worlds." Dr. Keth rubbed his tired eyes. This plague was similar to the bioweapons that had been used in the hegemony attacks. Dr. Seo Young-hee had developed treatments for similar diseases, but her research had been taken away when the humans left. "Have we heard anything from Dr. Seo?" he asked. "We sent 57 messages. She has not responded to any of them." Dr. Keth had worked with Dr. Seo for 6 years. She was brilliant, but the Delphin medical establishment had always treated her like a useful assistant rather than an equal colleague. They had been happy to use her treatments without caring how they worked or giving her credit for developing them. "Send another message. Tell her we will give her full recognition for all her previous work. Tell her we will make her the head of infectious disease research." "Sir, we already offered her that." Her response was to send us a news article. "What article?" The assistant brought up a document on his screen. It was from the Delphin Medical Journal written 2 years ago. The headline read, "Human Medical Practices Crude Methods That Damage More Than They Heal." The article had been written by Dr. Keth himself. She included a personal note, the assistant continued. She said, "I am sure your refined medical practices will solve this problem much better than my crude methods ever could." Dr. Keth stared at the article. He remembered writing it. At the time, he had been angry that human doctors were getting credit for treatments that Delphin hospitals were using. He had wanted to prove that Delphin medicine was superior. Now 2 million people were dying, and the superior Delphin medicine had no answers. Meanwhile, the infrastructure failures were spreading across the galaxy. Solar flares from the Kepler system were damaging the delicate crystal cities of the inner worlds. Without human-maintained shield generators, the beautiful structures were cracking and breaking. Captain Nam Ji-ho sat in the monitoring station, on Luna Base watching the crisis unfold. His job was to track alien communications, and what he was hearing made him angry. "Sir," said his communications officer. "We are picking up emergency broadcasts from 12 different systems. They are all having power failures, structural collapses, or atmospheric problems." Captain Nam Ji-ho was not surprised. Humans had spent decades building and maintaining the infrastructure that kept alien worlds livable. The aliens had been happy to use the systems without learning how they worked. "Any of them asking for help properly?" he asked. "No, sir. They are still making demands." The Gorvak administrator sent a message saying that humans have a moral obligation to maintain the systems we built. Captain Nam Ji-ho laughed bitterly. A moral obligation? The same people who questioned whether we deserved to participate in civilized society. His tablet buzzed with an incoming message. It was from the Gorvak Transportation Authority, marked as urgent. "Sir, you should read this one," his communications officer said. Captain Nam Ji-ho opened the message. It was from Administrator Korv, the same alien who had argued with Commander Song about the defense systems. "Captain Nam," the message read, "the hyperspace navigation network is failing across our territory. Ships are getting lost in hyperspace. Some have been missing for weeks. You designed these systems 20 years ago. We need your immediate assistance to prevent a complete transportation collapse." Captain Nam Ji-ho remembered designing those navigation systems. It had taken him 3 years of careful work, mapping hyperspace currents and calculating safe routes between stars. The Gorvak had called the work routine maintenance, not advanced engineering. "Send a reply," he told his communications officer. "What should it say, sir?" "Tell Administrator Korv that I am currently working as a fishing guide in the Pacific Ocean. Tell him that I find catching fish much more rewarding than helping people who think my work is routine maintenance." The transportation failures were cascading across multiple systems. The Aquilian luxury cruise ships, famous for their elegant journeys between star systems, were stranded in hyperspace. The Zenthari cargo haulers could not find their way to major trade hubs. Even military vessels were having navigation problems. Captain Ryu Sung-min received over 100 urgent messages from former colleagues. They begged him to return and fix the navigation problems. They offered him command positions, research, grants, and huge salaries. Captain Ryu Sung-min was teaching his daughter how to fish from a small boat in the Pacific Ocean. The boat had no hyperspace drive, no navigation computers, no advanced technology. It just had a man, a girl, and the simple pleasure of catching fish together. "Papa," asked his daughter, "why do you keep getting messages on your tablet?" "Some people made a mistake," Ryu Sung-min said, helping her reel in a fish. "Now they want me to fix it for them. Are you going to help them?" Ryu Sung-min watched his daughter struggle with the fishing line. She was patient and careful, not giving up when the fish fought back. She was learning that good things required effort and persistence. "No," he said finally. "They need to learn how to fix their own mistakes." On Nexus Prime, the situation was becoming desperate. Emergency Chancellor Vorth called daily crisis meetings, but each day brought news of fresh disasters. Systems were failing, people were dying, and the remaining council members were starting to panic. "The casualty reports are getting worse," announced Dr. Zenth. "We now estimate over 8 billion deaths from the various crises. The hegemony attacks, the medical emergencies, the infrastructure failures. Everything is happening at once." Counselor Thiff wilted further. "This cannot be coincidence. These problems are all connected to human systems and human knowledge." "Of course they are connected," said Commander Quex. His mechanical voice was bitter. "For 40 years, humans built our civilization while we took credit for their work. Now we are seeing what our civilization looks like without them." Chancellor Vorth looked around the reduced chamber. Only 15 species were still attending meetings. The others were too busy with emergencies or too proud to admit they needed help. "We need to contact the humans officially," he said. "We need to ask them to return." "What price will they demand?" asked Dr. Zenth. "Does it matter?" Chancellor Vorth replied. "Without them, our civilization is collapsing. With them, we might survive long enough to rebuild." The message was sent to Earth the next day. It was formal, desperate, and very different. From the arrogant dismissals the humans had endured for so many years, to the government of the Terran Federation, it began. The Galactic Council formally requests the immediate return of Terran representatives to assist in resolving the current galactic crisis. We acknowledge that certain past statements may have been inappropriate and request an opportunity to discuss terms for renewed cooperation. President Kim Ji-woo read the message aloud to her cabinet. The room was quiet for a long moment. "Inappropriate," she said finally. Ambassador Lee Hai-jin walked into the cabinet meeting room carrying a data tablet and wearing a small smile. The message from the Galactic Council had arrived that morning, and she had been waiting all day to share it with the leadership. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, taking her seat at the large conference table, "the Galactic Council has sent us their formal request for assistance." President Park In-ho leaned back in his chair. He had been expecting this message for months. "Read it aloud, Ambassador. I think we should all hear exactly how they phrased their request." Ambassador Lee Hai-jin cleared her throat and began reading. "To the government of the Terran Federation, the Galactic Council formally requests the immediate return of Terran Federation representatives to assist in resolving the current galactic crisis. We acknowledge that certain past statements may have been inappropriate and request an opportunity to discuss terms for renewed cooperation." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Defense Minister Cho Min-seo started laughing. "Inappropriate," she said, shaking her head. 40 years of calling us primitive animals, and they call it inappropriate. "What else does the message say?" asked President Park In-ho. Ambassador Lee Hai-jin scrolled down the tablet. "They list their current crises. The hegemony now controls 54 star systems. Infrastructure failures have made another 30. Systems barely livable. Medical emergencies are spreading across 12 different worlds. The death toll has reached 11 billion. Dr. Kang Yoon-woo, the Minister of Science, looked troubled. 11 billion people? That is more than the entire human population. "Yes," said President Park In-ho, "and every one of those deaths could have been prevented if they had listened to human advice, used human systems properly, or simply treated us with basic respect." Admiral Sun Yu-jin pulled up a holographic display showing the current galactic situation. Most of the map was colored red or yellow, indicating systems under attack or failing. Only the green areas around human space showed stability. "The irony is perfect," she said. "They spent decades telling us we were too primitive to participate in their advanced civilization. Now their civilization has collapsed and ours is thriving." President Park In-ho studied the map. The human colonies were not just surviving, they were growing stronger. Without the constant demands for assistance from alien worlds, human resources could be focused on human development. New colonies were being established. New technologies were being developed. The human economy was booming. "Some of our people think we should help them immediately," said Dr. Kang Yoon-woo. "They argue that we have a moral obligation to save lives." "And what do you think, Doctor?" President Park In-ho asked. "I think we do have a moral obligation, but not the obligation they expect. Our obligation is to make sure this never happens again." Defense Minister Cho Min-seo nodded. "The doctor is right. If we just go back and fix their problems, they will learn nothing. In 10 years, they will be treating us the same way again. So what do?" asked Admiral Sun Yu-jin. President Park In-ho was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he spoke. "We help them, but only on our terms. Complete terms, non-negotiable terms. They wanted to see what happened when they dismissed human contributions. Now they know. The price of getting those contributions back is going to be very, very high." The debate continued for 3 days. Some cabinet members argued for immediate humanitarian intervention. Others wanted to let the aliens face the full consequences of their actions. But everyone agreed on one thing. If humanity returned to galactic affairs, it would be as an equal partner, not as useful servants. During the debates, more disturbing news arrived. Captain Nam Ji-ho, still monitoring alien communications from Luna Base, intercepted a series of hegemony transmissions that changed everything. "Mr. President," Captain Nam Ji-ho reported via secure channel, "you need to hear this. The hegemony forces are not just conquering council worlds. They are systematically targeting and destroying human-built infrastructure. President Park In-ho frowned. What do you mean? Every human-designed hospital, every human-built defense station, every piece of human technology they can find. They are destroying it all. They are trying to erase any evidence that humans ever contributed to galactic civilization. Admiral Sun Yujin leaned forward. This changes things. This is not just about conquest. This is about rewriting history. Captain Nam Ji-ho continued his report. The hegemony commander, General Korth, sent a message to his fleet yesterday. He said, and I quote, "When we are finished, the galaxy will remember only hegemony strength. The myth of human competence will be erased forever." The room fell silent. This was no longer just about helping ungrateful allies. The hegemony was actively trying to destroy humanity's legacy and replace it with their own version of history. Sir, Captain Nam Ji-ho added, there is something else. The hegemony has been studying human military tactics for years. They know how we fight, but the council species never bothered to learn. The aliens are defenseless against their own former teachers. President Park In-ho stood up and walked to the window. He could see the lights of human ships moving between Earth and the Moon, carrying supplies to the growing colonies. Humanity was building something beautiful in their isolation, but that beauty would mean nothing if the hegemony succeeded in conquering the galaxy and rewriting history. Admiral Sun, he said finally, how quickly can we mobilize the home fleet? Admiral Sun Yujin smiled. The home fleet has been ready for months, sir, but if we are going back, we should go back properly, not as mercenaries helping desperate aliens, but as a superpower establishing our rightful place in galactic affairs. What do you mean? I mean, we do not just beat the hegemony and leave. We return to the galaxy as the dominant military and technological force. We make sure that no one ever again questions whether humans deserve respect. President Park In-ho turned back to his cabinet. Draft our response to the Council's request. Tell them we will consider helping them, but only after they agree to our terms. Full terms. Complete terms. What terms? Asked Ambassador Lee Hyojin. First, formal apologies from every species that participated in the systematic dismissal of human contributions. Public apologies broadcast across their homeworlds. Defense Minister Cho Min-seo was taking notes. Second, reparations. 40 years of taking credit for our work, using our technology and dismissing our methods. They owe us for every life, saved by human medicine, every system protected by human defenses, every problem solved by human engineering. Third, asked Dr. Kang Yunwoo, guaranteed representation proportional to our actual contributions, not their prejudices. If humans design and maintain 70% of their defense systems, humans get 70% of the vote on military matters, Admiral Sun Yujin added. And fourth, any species that wants access to human technology must have their own people learn how it works. No more taking our gifts without understanding them. No more using our knowledge while insulting. Our methods, President Park In-ho nodded. Those are our terms. Non-negotiable. If they want primitive human help with their advanced problems, they pay the full price. The response was sent to the Council the next day. It was formal, detailed, and completely uncompromising. The humans would help, but only after the aliens admitted their mistakes and paid for their arrogance. On Nexus Prime, Emergency Chancellor Vorth read the human response to a nearly empty council chamber. Only 12 species were still attending meetings. The others were either conquered, collapsed, or too proud to face reality. The humans have agreed to help, Chancellor Vorth announced. But their terms are extensive. He read the full list of human demands. Public apologies, financial reparations, guaranteed political representation, mandatory education programs. The price of human assistance was essentially the complete restructuring of galactic society. These terms are outrageous, said Commander Quex. They are demanding total surrender. Are they? Asked Dr. Zenth quietly. Or are they simply demanding what they always deserved and never received? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the truth, even if they did not want to admit it. The alternative is the complete collapse of our civilization, Chancellor Vorth said. The hegemony advance continues. Our infrastructure is failing. Our people are dying. Without human help, we have perhaps 6 months before total societal breakdown. Councillor Thief, her flower-like face now completely wilted, spoke in a whisper. How many of our people have died because we were too proud to listen to human advice? Current estimates are over 12 billion, Dr. Zenth replied. And how many more will die if we refuse their terms? No one had an answer to that question. They all knew it could be everyone. Chancellor Vorth called for a vote. The motion was simple. Accept human terms completely, or face the consequences alone. The vote was unanimous. 12 species, representing the last free governments in the galaxy, agreed to pay whatever price humanity demanded. The message was sent to Earth within hours. The Galactic Council accepts all Terran Federation terms without reservation. We request immediate assistance and await your instructions. On Earth, President Park In-ho received the message while having dinner with his family. He read it silently, then set his tablet aside. Is it important, dear? Asked his wife. Yes, President Park In-ho said. The aliens have just agreed to rebuild galactic society according to human principles. It is the end of one age and the beginning of another. He looked out the window at the stars. Tomorrow, humanity would return to the galaxy, but they would return as teachers, not students, as leaders, not servants, as the civilization that had learned to walk away from those who did not value them. The galaxy had spent a year learning what it looked like without humans. Now it would learn what it looked like when humans were in charge. The lesson would be much more pleasant for everyone involved. Admiral Choi Seon-ho stood on the bridge of the TSS Indomitable, watching the massive human fleet spread out across space like a metal constellation. 300 ships moved in perfect formation toward the war zone. These were not the same ships that had left galactic space a year ago. These were newer, stronger, built with technology that had been developed in isolation, free from alien criticism and council restrictions. Admiral, reported Captain Kim Min-jung from the communications station, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 hegemony vessels. They want to negotiate terms. Admiral Choi Seon-ho smiled coldly. Tell them to surrender unconditionally or be destroyed. No negotiations, no terms. No mercy for those who tried to erase our history. The hegemony fleet that had seemed unstoppable for months was being systematically dismantled. Human ships moved with precision that made the enemy look clumsy. Human weapons hit targets with accuracy that made the enemy look blind. Human tactics anticipated every enemy move before it happened. Sir, called out Lieutenant Park Soo-jin from the tactical station, the hegemony flagship is requesting permission to speak with you directly. Put it through. The main screen showed General Korth, the hegemony commander who had boasted about erasing human contributions to galactic history. He no longer looked confident. Admiral Choi, General Korth said, your fleet is impressive. Perhaps we can reach an arrangement that benefits both our peoples. General Korth, Admiral Choi Seon-ho replied, you made a mistake. You assumed that because the council treated us like servants we were weak. You assumed that because they dismissed our methods as primitive, our methods were ineffective. General Korth's face grew pale. Admiral, surely we can discuss this, like civilized beings. Civilized beings, Admiral Choi Seon-ho repeated. That is what the council called themselves while they insulted us for 40 years. That is what they said while they used our technology and dismissed our contributions. You learned their methods well. He leaned forward in his command chair. General, you have 30 seconds to order the complete surrender of your fleet. If you refuse, we will demonstrate exactly how effective our primitive methods can be. General, Korth looked at his tactical displays. The hegemony fleet was outnumbered and outmatched. Human ships surrounded them like predators surrounding prey. There was no escape, no hope of victory. I surrender, he said quietly. The battle was over. The campaign that had lasted months for the aliens had taken humans exactly 72 hours to complete. But the military victory was only the beginning. President Park In-ho arrived at the rebuilt council chambers not in the middle section where humans had sat for 40 years, but at the head table where the most important species conducted business. He wore a simple black suit and carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew he held all the power. The chamber was nearly empty. Only the representatives of 12 species remained, and they looked small and desperate in the huge room that had once held 47 proud civilizations. Chancellor Vorth stood up as President Park In-ho entered. "Mr. President, we are grateful for your assistance in defeating the hegemony. We are ready to discuss the terms of our renewed partnership." President Park In-ho took his seat at the head table and looked around the chamber. "Chancellor Vorth, there is no partnership to discuss. There are terms to implement." He activated a holographic display that showed the new structure of galactic government. The galactic community, as it will now be called, will operate according to principles of proportional representation and practical competence. "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Zenth. "It means that political power will be distributed based on actual contributions, not ancient traditions or species prejudices. Humans design and maintain 80% of current defense systems, so humans will control 80% of military decisions." Commander Quex made a grinding sound of protest. "But that would make humans the dominant power in the galaxy." "Yes," President Park In-ho said simply. "It would, because humans have been the dominant contributors to galactic civilization for 40 years. The only difference is that now the political structure will reflect reality instead of hiding it." He activated another display showing economic and scientific contributions. Human medical research has saved approximately 40 billion lives over the past 4 decades. Human engineering has built 60% of all major infrastructure in civilized space. Human tactical thinking has won every major defensive war. Numbers were overwhelming and undeniable. For decades, humans had been doing most of the actual work, while the aliens took most of the political credit. "The new system will be merit-based," President Park In-ho continued. "Species that contribute more will have more influence. Species that contribute less will have less influence. Very simple and very fair." Dr. Zenth raised one of his 4 hands. "What about the species that cannot contribute as much? What happens to them?" "They will be protected and cared for just as they always have been. But they will not have equal votes on matters they do not understand. A species with no medical knowledge will not vote on medical policy. A species with no military experience will not vote on defense strategy." Chancellor Vorth looked uncomfortable. "Mr. President, these changes are quite radical. Perhaps we could implement them gradually." President Park In-ho shook his head. "Chancellor, your gradual approach led to 12 billion deaths and the near collapse of galactic civilization. The time for gradual change ended when you decided humans were too primitive to deserve respect." He stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. "Let me be very clear about what is happening here. This is not a negotiation. This is not a discussion. This is the presentation of the new reality." The holographic displays changed to show human colonies and bases throughout the galaxy. Human forces now occupy or protect every major system. Human technology maintains every critical piece of infrastructure. Human knowledge is required to solve every current crisis. "You have 3 choices," President Park In-ho continued. "First, you can accept the new structure and work with us as junior partners. Second, you can reject it and try to manage your civilizations without any human assistance. Third, you can oppose it and face the consequences of fighting the only military force that still functions in this galaxy." The chamber was silent. Everyone understood what those consequences would be. Councillor Thife spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "What guarantees do we have that humans will not abuse this power?" President Park In-ho smiled. "The same guarantee you always had, Councillor. Human moral character. For 40 years, humans could have seized control of the galaxy at any time. We had the technology, the military strength, and the strategic knowledge to do it. Instead, we chose to work as partners with species who treated us as inferiors." He walked back to his seat. "The only thing that has changed is that we are no longer willing to be silent about our contributions. or modest about our capabilities. Dr. Park Tae-hoon, the new director of Galactic Affairs, stepped forward with a tablet full of documents. The Human Technology Institute will be established on every major world. For the first time, alien students will be required to actually learn human engineering, human medicine, human strategic thinking. No more taking without understanding, President Park In-ho added. No more using our knowledge while dismissing our methods. If you want the benefits of human civilization, you will learn to appreciate how that civilization actually works. Ambassador Lee Hae-jin took her place at the podium for the first human address since the withdrawal a year ago. She looked out at the small group of aliens and spoke in a voice that was calm, professional, and utterly unforgiving. For 40 years, humanity contributed to this community while being treated as intellectual inferiors. We built your defenses, cured your diseases, and solved your problems while being told we were too emotional, too violent, too primitive. She paused and let her words sink in. When we left, you learned what galactic civilization looks like without those contributions. The price of that education was 12 billion lives. The chamber was completely silent. Several aliens looked down at their desks, unable to meet her eyes. We are willing to rebuild what was lost, to restore what was broken, and to continue contributing to galactic civilization. But we will never again be silent while being dismissed. She looked directly at Chancellor Vorth. The humans did not walk away in anger. We walked away in disappointment. Whether that disappointment turns to partnership or permanent separation is now up to you. Chancellor Vorth stood up slowly. Ambassador Lee, what do you need from us? Honesty, she replied. Acknowledgement of what actually happened. Recognition of who HFY